Welcome to another podcast of stories and innovations in ALS with Lisa Deegan, and I'm McFinn at everythingals.org.
Hello and welcome to Stories and Innovation in ALS. My name is Lisa Deegan and I'm joined today by my co-host, McFinn. We're storytellers who have both been affected by ALS. We helped co-found a nonprofit called Everything ALS, whose mission is to bring citizen-driven research along with data technology and science to help accelerate treatments for ALS. This podcast brings together stories of those affected and those who are innovating and investigating in the space to help accelerate treatments for this devastating disease. Today's episode, Keep on Ticking, shares Dr. Hira Ahluwalia and his family's story and journey with ALS. Hira is the author of the book, Keep on Ticking, and owns his own consulting business as a corrosion and materials engineering expert. We are also joined with his wife, Maggie, AKA Irish Rose, who is from Ireland. And Maggie is a nurse and the mother of their two sons, Arjun and Kieran. Hira and Maggie, thank you so much for being with us today. We are truly honored and we appreciate you taking the time to share your story with us. We believe in the power of storytelling to help spread awareness on ALS and the need for effective treatment, good care, and solving the mystery of this devastating disease. So now let's get to Hira and Maggie's story. Thank you for being here.
All right, folks. You know, there's a first thing in life with you two, and that's, where did you meet? How did this come together?
Sister Lisa and Brother McFinn, thank you for inviting us to the Everything ALS podcast. It is an honor. You are not reluctant interviewing someone using an eye gaze computer. Anything possible. Thank you for your patience.
Well, start our little story. Hira and I met in Newcastle upon Tyne in England, and that was 36 years ago. And Hira was my next door neighbour, and he was doing PhD studies, and I was doing my nursing. So we just kind of, met so easily.
And there's no accidents in life. So for you two to meet that far back and still be supporting each other to the max right now, I am so proud to see a couple like that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, McFinn.
So my father was Italian and my mom was Irish English. So completely like different backgrounds, different families. So when I had read your book, it kind of reminded me of how different my parents were, but yet they came together and they were totally bonded. So Hira, I have a question for you. In your book, Keep on Ticking, you were mentioned as, or referred to as Dr. Metals. So what was your professional career?
I am a corrosion and materials engineer and have been operating my consulting company for 25 years. Now my son Kieran keeps the business ticking away.
Do you think that there was anything in your company and in your career that led to ALS? Environmental?
The chemical, pharmaceutical, food, and metal industries. The question is, did I get exposed to toxins? That is a distinct possibility and just another piece in the puzzle contributing to the perfect storm.
Yeah, it is a perfect storm. I've actually described getting ALS. Sometimes it takes a perfect storm for it to happen. So, so Maggie, I have a question for you. So being a mom is like a juggling act. We wear tons of hats at once and we take care of the family and we kind of rule the roost. So what were you doing before Hira's diagnosis and how do you now juggle all of your roles?
Okay, well, before Hira's diagnosis, I used to work in a little school. It was very near Hira's office. It was a small Montessori school. And then sometimes in the afternoon, many afternoons, I would help Hira just with his general business operations and doing some accountancy work for him. And things did change though, because after Hira's legs started to become increasingly weak, I had to kind of be there quite a lot with him just for fear of these falls he was having. So I tried to juggle roles of helping him, doing my little school work. And then our younger son, he used to work for another company. So he came back home to live with us and also help Hira run his company. Had to make some adaptations along the way. Yeah.
Hira, how long did it take for you to get diagnosed? I know most people take almost a year and a half. What was it for you?
The journey started in March 2014. My first fall and subsequently my right leg giving way. We were confident that the cause was orthopedic related, for example, nerve impingement from disc herniation. After some of the best orthopedic surgeons reviewed my MRI information and concluded that this was not orthopedic related, we realized that the issue is neurological related. ALS was not even a consideration at this time. The search for a diagnosis was surprisingly elusive. It took over 3.5 years, not until my first admission to hospital. My primary care physician said, "You have ALS. Give me a break." I had self-diagnosed in 2015. Lisa and McFinn, you won't believe the ridiculous suggestions by many neurologists I consulted with. Guillain-Barré, you got to be kidding me. Latent polio, what was he thinking? Localized neuropathy, what is that supposed to mean? Multifocal motor neuropathy, perhaps a better guess. I went through 2 courses of IVIG treatment. Diabetic mellitus, what planet is this guy from? A physical medicine and rehabilitation physician was the only person who hinted it was ALS and helped arrange for me to get a motorized wheelchair. I suggest a rehab physician may be a valuable resource.
I cannot believe 3.5 years. I think that's one of the longer lengths of a diagnosis that I've heard of. That is absurd. IVIG, I think they give that to you when they think it's MMN, the motor neuron neuropathy. My brother went through that because we were praying for that. And I just can't believe it took that long. And I'm sorry you guys had to go. I mean, just the unknown but you in your mind sounds like you did the research early on and you're like, I think I have an indication much earlier than what the doctors were giving you but in terms of the day, like I remember the day I learned my brother had ALS. I'll never forget it. It's imprinted in my brain. So Maggie, I have a question for you. When you both finally at this time realized that ALS was the cause, what's going on in your mind? What were you thinking and how did you manage this new reality?
I mean, we had to wait so long to get a definitive answer that I guess we just kind of took one day at a time and tried to just live our life as normal. Did struggle a lot, and first because it was his lower limbs that were affected first. So then Kieran was here, so he would help me transfer Hira onto like scooters or onto the chair or onto the sofa in the house. And luckily, we did have actually good, like very strong shoulder line and very strong arms, so he could use some of the strength to help us. But then when everything deteriorated, it became impossible for us. We had to get some extra help.
Maggie, when did you first notice the first sign that something was not right?
I I noticed Hira was sitting at the table one day, and we noticed like his leg was very thin. It kind of had gone very thin. And then that's when we started to think, oh my goodness, that's why all these falls are happening. It seems like the leg has become so weak that, you know, he just couldn't hold the rest of his body up, losing his balance and falling on the floor.
And so you noticed not only weakness, but atrophy then is what you're like, they were thinner than normal?
Particularly one leg was very atrophied, but then the other one did slowly get thinner and thinner as well. So then we thought, oh my goodness, maybe this is something very serious.
Yeah. Well, we had a really good family friend pass away from ALS. He was a firefighter, and this is before my brother was diagnosed. And, you know, I'm just curious if you guys knew of anybody who had ALS before this happened to you.
Actually, I never have. And even as I worked as a nurse, I never met any patients that had ALS. I don't know, maybe they just weren't diagnosed, or the system is too complex. We have a lot of illnesses like Parkinson's disease or multiple sclerosis, but I never met anyone that had ALS or motor neuron disease, as they call it in England.
Well, that, you know, there's a community of people out there who have never met anybody else with ALS. And that's why we have our program. And that's why it's so important for you to contribute your story so that other people can realize that this is a family disease. The whole family is taken over. And when I think about what inspired you, Hira, to write your book, that to me is such a feat for you to do as a gift to all of us. I just want to know what gave you the idea that you needed to put it down in writing?
Love of my life, Maggie encouraged me to share our experiences so others could learn and benefit. At first, I thought PTSD had made her crazy because she is a very private person. I am sure Maggie wanted to keep me occupied during the winter months. Well, I decided to take this challenge seriously, and the rest is history. I wrote most of the book between 4 to 8 in the early morning. For 8 months, never got a good sleep. Without the assistance of Kieran and my friend Bruce, this project would not be possible.
Well, it's possible. It's alive. It was born. Your gift now can go all the way around the world because, you know, there's no limits to there's no boundary lines for ALS. It's a worldwide situation that needs a worldwide puzzle pieces put together. So thank you for bringing your puzzle pieces to us.
Yeah, so to me, this book was, it was so many things, but it was also such a great love story about your journey and getting ALS, living with it, and how you continue to make every single day count. And you're so fortunate to have such incredible support of your loving wife, your 2 sons, your friends. What do you hope to accomplish with the publication of your book, Keep on Ticking?
I want to use this book as a way to increase awareness, educate, and encourage research. During our ALS perilous journey, we noted that there were no biomarkers for early detection of ALS, resulting in misdiagnosis and anxiety. Furthermore, not many physicians, nurses, and other healthcare professionals have experience with caring for ALS patients. Through my story, I hope to raise awareness of the impact this disease has on families. I have a challenge for research community. By the year 2025, accurate diagnosis within 6 months of onset of weakness or muscle atrophy. I know this is a mission for everything ALS, but I'm putting a date on it. Just imagine the power of diagnosis by an analysis of spinal fluid. Blood or urine validated by speech analysis.
Thank you, because, evolution of finding an answer is happening, and it's happening every day with people all around the world working on this. A lot of people, they have a lot of names for ALS. They call it a lot of things that they don't care about. But what is your name for ALS that you've come up with, Hira?
The best, most appropriate name is fucking shit disease, shortened to FSD. So why do I call the disease FSD? This disease causes emotional stress, PTSD, physical devastation, and is financially crippling. If I live too long, I will be living in a tent. I think everyone with this disease would agree FSD is the appropriate name.
I completely agree.
Agree.
I agree. And I wish I knew, I wish I had that name while we were going through it, because, there's something about adding humor just to lighten such a heavy subject, such a heavy thing. So, after going through the journey myself with my brother, I really always said it's, ALS is not for the faint of heart. You have to be tough mentally, especially as you're losing your strength physically, and you have to be tough spiritually. So Hira and Maggie, how do you keep your spirits up?
My life, and particularly during my ALS journey, my late mother always said to me, Shardi Kala. In Sikhism, Shardi Kala is the Punjabi term for aspiring to maintain a mental state of eternal optimism and joy. We are really expected to be in this positive state of mind even during the times of adversity. This is a way of life and keeps me in high spirits. How can in high spirits with Maggie besides me and my amazing sons?
And
Yes, Maggie.
I try to be very positive in my outlook in life, and I try not to get into this doomsday conversations with people, or also like catastrophizing into the future. Oh my goodness, this might happen, but this might happen, but this might happen. It's all like very negative. So I try and keep everything very positive and just live one day at a time. Nothing is ever guaranteed for anyone in this life that we can live many, many years. We could all die tomorrow. So I just believe we should just take one day at a time and enjoy it. And I always say to Hira, let's go outside. I mean, we do have, winter time in New Jersey here, but right at this time of year, it's so beautiful. So we try to go out, enjoy the sun, enjoy the changes of seasons, except the winter. And I guess just keep our spirits up.
Yeah, well,
There's a lot to be said about being outside.
Yeah.
In nature.
Yeah, and beautiful trees and flowers, and
taking your shoes off so that your feet touch the earth, because it's a big battery and everybody has rubber shoes on nowadays and they're a little insulated.
right.
Hira, I want to say something that I believe that your message is trying to get out. And here it comes. Hope is not passive. Hope is when you take the hammer and you break the glass of the alarm and sound people to action.
Right.
Audie Barkin. I saw that on a interview that he did, and it just filled my heart, because I always thought that hope was passive and you just hope for something. But no, hope now is taking action. And your book and your spirit, both of you, are in complete action for everybody with ALS. So you really got my heart, you two.
Thank you. And we appreciate all the great work you guys do as well. It's really amazing. We look forward to your Wednesday evenings, you know, just to see the speakers and listen to all the people calling in. It's really very inspirational.
Well, that's the point of having an extended family. And each of them, not all of them, have gone into trials. But Hira, have you gone into any trials for
The
ALS?
problem was that being in trials requires an official diagnosis. Gave up the search for trials after being told I would not qualify.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the challenge when you have ALS. Many people don't learn until later on, and by then it's too late. And so that's one of the problems. So we're hoping with our speech study that we can help with earlier diagnosis that will get people into trials earlier and onto treatments that are more tailored to help people at least slow the progression. Hira and Maggie, there's so many decisions that you have to make with ALS, and the paths vary so much for each individual. What has been the hardest decision in your journey thus far?
The hardest decision was if I would want a tracheostomy. I had said that I never wanted a tracheostomy because of the hard work of my family and caregivers. I am still ticking 2.5 years on.
Yes, I agree with that. The hardest decision is actually the tracheostomy, because you know it's going to impact your life, that you won't be able to speak, you probably will not be able to eat. But then at the other hand, you know it's your only real chance of survival. So it's almost like you have to make that big decision. Are you going to go for it or not? And I mean, we've had many sleepless nights trying to figure out what actually to do.
Well, I hear only 10%, I think it is 10% of ALS patients opt to do that. My brother did not want any medical intervention. He didn't have children, so I don't know if that was part of his decision-making, but I was surprised to learn that so few, but there's many reasons why people decide not to do it. It's not an easy thing. So, but I'm glad you decided to do it, Hira, and you're with us today to talk to us and share your journey. So thank you for that.
Maggie, I know
Yes.
that we have no idea of what you're going through. We have a small idea, but every family is different and every challenge is different. Is there anybody giving you emotional, physical, spiritual help? Are you seeking counseling? Is there some support out there that you're getting that you could tell us about?
Not really. I mean, just besides our family and friends who are always very helpful, and you know, they can always listen to your issues. But I personally have never considered counseling, you know, by a therapist. But I don't know. Sometimes it's just really hard to find the right therapist, and you feel like maybe they're not experienced with dealing with people or dealing with someone with ALS. So then I personally never looked, and Hira never looked either, even when in the early phases of the disease.
Do you find that your son is a good counselor for you, or your conversations?
But definitely, we probably drive him crazy too. But he's a good listener. He really is. A very good listener.
That's wonderful. You know, somebody who listens draws out of you what you have down inside that you're holding on to. But when there's somebody with an open heart sitting in front of you, your deepest woes can just stream right out because you feel safe. So I really appreciate that your son is such an inspiration for you and a help for Hira. I mean, it's a family disease. It's a family support system. And I just couldn't be more happy to see you two taking care of each other, because I know Hira takes care of you also in his way.
Yes, he does. But also, if you're a person on your own, it might be beneficial to get counseling and a therapist.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, Hira, one thing, and Maggie, that you're both so lucky to have in a not so, lucky situation is that you have eye gaze technology. If there's one thing throughout the journey with my brother that I look back on, communication was so challenging and difficult. And for whatever reason, he just would not use eye gaze technology. And so I'm so envious that you guys can still communicate. And I know it's hard and it takes time, but tell us how it's changed your life being able to use this technology, Hira.
Eye gaze technology is my pathway to the world. If I did not have eye gaze technology, the frustration would be unbearable. I would rather die.
Well,
I get it.
thank you for choosing communication, because that's your real gift, is if you can tell your story, then other people can know that they can have support and hope. And it's like, Maggie, you used to just maybe be a nurse, a housewife, a mother, but what have you become since this has come your way? How has it expanded you?
I think in some senses I've become really responsible for Hira's quality of life. And I have to, make sure we have caregivers and have to make sure everything's organized and in place. And even if I want to go out, I can't go unless I have a caregiver here who I think is competent to look after Hira properly. Like, for example, if we have a problem with the Toby eye gaze, that person has to be able to fix it, or a suction machine or a ventilator. So I always have that responsibility.
That's only one of the big responsibility, because technology is something that most people don't understand, and how complex, how such a wonderful tool to be given to you, and for you to understand it is almost, you almost needed, a telephone number to call up every so often saying, this is not coming together. Do you feel that the eye gaze people are totally responsive, like on the spot?
Yeah, I do actually. They are pretty good about helping you walk through any difficulties. They have like a hotline number, and they're very responsible. They will get back to you straight away. They help you trouble everything. And we have one technician who helps us a lot. He helped Hira set it up and set up email and everything. He was like invaluable help.
Well,
Yeah.
When you talk about emails, it's amazing that we can communicate all around the world almost instantly.
Right.
And that's why both of you, once that we put out the podcast, you become worldwide puzzle pieces that somebody else is going to say, I got to listen to that again. I heard something in there that I need to hear that again. So the details of what you're going through and what you have gone through, they are priceless. And for you to take this time to share with us all of these details is just, it's almost like it's a little early for Christmas, but it's a Christmas gift for most people.
So two things that are definitely a gift to you guys are your two sons. It sounds like they are so involved in this journey, whether physically lifting, and they probably know all the ins and outs of caregiving, as I know too well how hard it is to train new caregivers. And when new people come on board, you got to explain everything, and every person is completely different, because, and this was always the challenge. It's like, okay, we got to train somebody new because they haven't, dealt with anybody else who's exactly at this exact stage with their disease as I am right now. So I totally understand all that, but your son sounds so amazing. And I want to know how they've coped. It probably made them grow up pretty quickly. But how did they cope and what is their role now?
When our FSD journey started, Arjun entered medical school and Kieran started his bachelor degree in mathematics. We talked to them every day and kept them informed of my condition. Remarkable young men who managed to focus on studies during this difficult time. Currently, Kieran has many roles and helps with my care and is my executive assistant. Without him, I would be miserable. Arjun with Maggie oversee my medical condition and interact with healthcare professionals. Kieran, I think Lisa and McFinn would like to see you.
Hello.
Yes.
Oh, good man. Thank you.
Oh, let me see your shirt. What does it say at the bottom?
My dad's Instagram handle.
Oh, it says
Right.
fight ALS. And oh, I love that. Get in the fight to kick ALS. I love it. That's awesome.
That,
Are we
you
meeting?
know, thank you,
Oh.
because a walking billboard, you never know who's going to like notice that.
Yeah, that's right on. That was cool.
Maggie, do you think that your son is, Maggie, I want to get a little serious here for a minute. You're taking all of this responsibility on. Usually we suggest that the partner has so much support because it's a 24-hour-a-day job that you have. Do you feel like you're going to be able to physically, mentally, and spiritually see this through without having some big support coming to you personally?
Yeah, McFinn, I mean, I come from the main caregiver manager and then Kieran helps me a lot, but we found that we definitely had to have private caregivers come into our home every day because we just physically couldn't do everything for Hira. So we actually have two girls and we're still, I'm sure, anyone going through this realizes that too, you probably need more than two people to help you. So we all for more caregivers, and as Lisa said, you have to train the people, so it takes a while. But
Yeah.
Well-
yes, we definitely need help.
Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you for accepting it. Go ahead, Lisa.
Well, you're sharing so much of your story and how it's affected you and both of you and your family. And I learned a lot when I went through this. What has ALS taught both of you, both Maggie and you, Hira?
ALS has taught us that it is a shit disease. Living with Als FSD has its daily challenges. Similar to many other diseases, there isn't any meaningful help, and you have to navigate through the challenges yourself. Or that everything ALS hosts is helpful.
That is what we want to hear, because our group coming together every 2 weeks on Wednesday is like a family gathering. And it really helps people to know that other people are just like them and that there is support out there, because they see it, because all of the people who come to our gatherings, not all of them, but a lot of them who come, they really bring their experience and their heartbreak. And you put those two together and then there comes an answer, because first you're always going to have sadness about this disease, but then that sadness is going to turn into your power, because sadness can only last a short time. Madness can only last a short time. I was lucky that my wife and my caretaker let me be upset as I needed to be, as negative as I needed to be, because after a little while, I saw it myself that I was putting more stress on my family than the disease. And so for you two to support each other the way you do, plus your son, It's like you have a homemade team that is priceless, and you're a pattern for other people to follow.
I want to thank you guys also for participating in our Everything ALS educational webinars, but I also want to thank you, Hira, for sharing your book with our entire team. On behalf of the team, everybody read it and everybody found it. They were laughing, they were crying. Everybody, I mean, I read it within, basically you start reading it and you just don't put it down. So it's easy to read. It's, it's entertaining because you're funny, but it's also, it's hard to, when you've gone through it like we have, it's hard to hear all the stories, but it's good information and it's your journey and it's important. So thank you. Thank you for sharing the love of your family and your journey and the journey that you've gone through with us. So we appreciate it.
I'm going to ask you what's coming next for you two, for you three.
Yeah, we've got a couple minutes, so
yeah,
we need to hear that.
I really feel like you've done so much, but once you've done so much, then you can do more.
Right.
The first order of business is staying alive. We are forming a nonprofit organization functioning as Keep on Ticking. I hope to partner with Everything ALS. We have started webinar series that will focus on the care aspect of living with Als FSD. For all Everything ALS viewers, contingent on getting corporate sponsorship, my book will be made available at no cost. Just send an email to info@everythingals.org and keep on ticking 61@gmail.com.
Yeah, and my hope is that Hira will continue to be well and even be on the ventilator. He will continue to have a long life, and I plan to help him with his new little charity he's going to run.
What a blessing.
We thank you for sharing your story with us. It's inspirational what you've done. You didn't just sit back and take it. You took the reins and you said, I'm going to take control and manage this as best I can. So it's inspirational.
And we want to thank you. The last minute of our show is to say, you have brought a gift. We have unwrapped it together. Thank you so much. We will share it with everyone.
Thank you, Lisa and McFinn. Peace. Failure is not an option.
We're with you.
I love it.
Thanks for joining us in our journey of exploration and digging deep into the souls of those affected by ALS and those working tirelessly to help put an end to this devastating disease. Your stories and work matter so much to us and to so many. Keep sharing and continuing to help further the research in ALS so we don't have to see another person suffer. Do you know anyone suffering from ALS? Are you a researcher, neurologist, pharma, or biotech company working in the ALS space? If so, we would love to hear from you. Contact us at info@everythingals.org. Thank you, folks.